Thank you.
Okay, so the idea is that we take the exclude, neutralize, disrupt STARVs, which is the acronym ENDS, and use it in a protocol. It's been introduced as the protocol for SIBO, but we're going to expand upon that for some other suites that we have in our product line. And right now, we're going to be adding to each area of the acronym, each letter, which the first one stands for exclude, which is the competitive exclusion principle. And the primary products that are going to be doing that are the spores, which are found in the products Megaspore, RestoreFlora, and HU58. And then the neutralizing action right now is primarily the IgG2000 capsule. We'll be adding to that the IgG2000 powder. The disrupt is a product that's going to disrupt the environment, and that is going to be through the pH, through motility, through a dyspeptic reaction, through a bile, or a specific action against an opportunistic pathogen. So right now, the products we have that do that are the MegaGuard, which have 3 components. But in the future, we're going to have some other products come. Pylopass is going to be specifically against the H. pylori. It'll be able to bind to it. But we have currently, the Megacidin, which has some specific activity, toward pathogens in the biocidin herbal formation. And it has, of course, the combination of the spores in there too, but it's that herbal action that is disrupting. The Megamune has herbal action that's disrupting, and the Megavirin does. So we're going to work those products into an immune suite with kind of this same plug and play idea. Then the last is starve, but there isn't always a starve mechanism, so we could substitute stabilize when there is not. In the starve mechanism, we use the FODMATE because of those oligosaccharides. When they're broken down, it's starving out certain populations of bacteria. And we don't really have another product that does that type of mechanism. So we do have stabilizing products, such as the Wheat Rescue, which is really working on those proteins that cause inflammation. So we can stabilize long term in a maintenance program to reduce inflammation. We also have specific fish oil that is reducing inflammation. So we could substitute the S for the stabilize for those protocols. Okay, so the first example here is in the SIBO, where we've got the excluding product is the HU58. The neutralizing product is the IgG2000, and the MegaGuard is the disruptor. So that's really working to work on the pH, the motility, and the H. pylori, and the whole dyspeptic action. And then the starve portion is going to be the FODMATE. And then it's important to say, this is a 2-part protocol, in that the ends is the beginning and the TGR would follow. So you would do a modified TGR, and the modified TGR is just switching the megamucosa and the megapre position. So you're doing, you're going to transition from the HU58 to the Megaspore, and then the megamucosa from the IgG2000, and then follow all that with the megapre, with the idea that at that point you have reconditioned the environment so that the megapre will not be an issue as far as fermentation. So
Right.
then,
quick interjection, if I could.
sure. Yes.
So I'm assuming, just to confirm, we're starting with the HU58 because just a lot of changes going on. These patients are probably more sensitive. Is that why we're doing that?
Absolutely. And we might even have to bridge going from the ends to the TGR modified with the Restore Flora.
Got
That
it.
that
Okay.
might have to happen as well.
Great. This is super exciting because that's how I always talk about it as well. And then would you recommend, like, should they do a BiomeFX test again before, or like, this is why I just am not really familiar with SIBO. Is there really a diagnostic test for SIBO?
Yes, they have some breath tests for
Right. Okay,
SIBO.
that's what it is. That's what it is.
And I believe there are some that distinguish between methane SIBO and hydrogen sulfide SIBO.
Right. Okay.
Um,
So from moving from the ends protocol to the modified TGR, before you introduce Megapre, do you like recommend that they get retested, or like how does that usually work?
I think that's real specific to the practitioner. The breath tests, from what I've been told, are not all that accurate.
Okay.
And if they see, BiomeFX is going to help way beyond the whole SIBO issue.
Okay.
SIBO is really a spectrum, and it's, the reason these lower, when I say lower, I mean lower into the intestinal tract, into the colon, the reason those organisms have migrated up the digestive tract to the upper intestine is because the environment has been destroyed. So, and that's a spectrum of how much destruction has taken place. So, once you're working on changing that environment, how you track it is, really up to the practitioner. I always recommend it's good to start with a baseline, see where everything is at, and then periodically, every 6 to 8 weeks, check it and see what progress you've had. Modifications, and that would have to be customized to the budget, of course, of what your patient and the compliance. So, that's where, the changes would have to be made.
Right.
Now,
okay. Awesome.
Now there's more to talk about as far as SIBO. And I'm going to show, this slide here. This is a whole presentation on SIBO, that, what causes it, different symptoms that you would have with it. And like you said, there's the breath test, the lactulose test, there's stool tests out there, aspiration tests. So there's a lot more information that goes with this, and aspects to consider, that pharmaceuticals are one of the main reasons people have SIBO, infections, and their diet and their lifestyle. So in a protocol to help these individuals, all this stuff has to be taken into consideration. Here's specifically the drugs that are going to be involved, including hormones, birth control. Those work against the gut as well. And here's, talking about the diversity and changing that environment, more specifically, to describe that. Here's some visuals, to see the importance of, the pH, on how the gut is a spectrum of pH, starting with the most acidic down to the most basic, and how each of these regions have a completely different environment. That pH is specific to turn on certain enzymes that are in that area to perform the functions required. And without that pH being what it's supposed to be, those enzymes won't work, and then the whole environment changes. And the pH also fosters different bacteria to survive there or not survive there. So here, this breaks up the colon, the proximal GI tract, and shows you what organisms reside within which area. And that's really where the whole SIBO idea came from, that you get these organisms that are supposed to be down in the colon, working their way up into the upper GI tract and fermenting and causing a problem. And then, you know, we'd have the whole metabolic endotoxemia discussion. And this just gets into other issues that can happen. This particular slideshow goes into how, you know, you can start with one problem like chronic rhinosinusitis, treat it with antibiotics. Then it's the antibiotics that cause the GI distress that will develop into the SIBO, which can result in, you know, damaging the gut and then creating a gluten intolerance. And now all of a sudden, you know, we've got 3 problems when we started with only 1. You know, so this, you know, can get layers upon layers. And the same issue can happen with glyphosate, which has an antibiotic type of reaction in the gut. You know, same thing, causing SIBO. You know, here's this example is it can go into calciphylaxis, which is causing a vitamin K issue, which is then going to harden the arteries, cause kidney stones, plaquing in the brain, you know, all because of, you know, something, you know, somebody's using on their lawn or their garden. So, but, you know, just some interesting twists on where SIBO can be involved. And
Are these slides shared with us?
you know, I'm not sure if they are, but I can share them with you.
I was just wondering because I would actually like to show possibly that SIBO, because they deal with a lot of SIBO, the dietitians do. So I think
Super.
that one of those slides was neat. Thank you very much.
Super. Okay, let's see, where else does this go? Yeah, so this is when, you know, you're talking about 1st degree, 2nd degree, and 3rd degree infections. You know, and this gets pretty complicated as far as, you know, the physiological disease process. I wouldn't approach this, you know, in the first kind of blush of introducing them to us or the company, but as you start drilling down into giving them higher and more advanced education, this is a direction you can go. You know, and then it gets into specifics on diversity and talking about, you know, the Akkermansia, going into mucosa and gut motility, because this is one of the biggest problems with SIBO, is that many of these individuals get constipated. And you can only imagine when an individual is toxic and then they get constipated, all of those toxins just concentrate, right? And all the problems that they cause get worse. So, you know, that has to be dealt with fiber and with prokinetic herbs, and you know, maybe even cleaning them out with a detox in a fasting protocol. So there's some, you know, different options there. We have to look at the impact on their immune system. You know, a lot of that has to do with, you know, their secretory IgA, and stress lowers the IgA, and you know, then they're more exposed to having infections of the gut. This is talking about the, you know, the Treg. It's part of the immune system, and, you know, the importance of that, and that the spores really help improve Treg function. You know, they help with the increased diversity, you know, helping with the mucosa mobility, all of these things we know that the TGR does. But also vitamin K, you know, has a role in all of this as far as helping with motility and the parasympathetic activation of the muscles and macrophages. So, you know, it's a good way to roll in the vitamin K functions. And then, you know, when I would do this, I always had, it's some spelling errors, some questions at the end. You know, this is, you know, for an advanced group, you know, just making sure that we've covered all the principles. So that's how deep you can go into the whole SIBO ends. You know, first starting out with kind of the basic, and then you can go advanced. Now, as far as basic in some of the other suites that we have, the immune suite, for instance, I think we can roll those into the same ends format. because we need to have some way to simplify these recommendations so that they're not overwhelmed. And so the megacidin, I would put into the exclude category because it has the spores in there. The neutralize, again, this is really the only product we have in 2 different forms, powder or capsule, to do the neutralizing. The disruptors are those herbs in the megavirin, specifically, keeping the virus from entering the cell, and then targeting the envelope of the virus, and then stabilizing. The Megamune has all those great things that keep the immune system on alert, so that really stabilizes a person through the flu and cold season. This is what I call the HPA HPT protocol, and that's going to involve the Zen Biome products, but the same idea. If I don't know how this person is going to respond to Megaspore, again, I'm starting with the simplest components, that way to minimize any herximing or any reactions, and just keeping in mind, the gut part of, we're dealing with, the disruptor of, the organism and the herbs that are involved with sleep. And I would say, out of the 2, this is the more powerful, because you're taking, 1 capsule for night and having a huge response, right? And then the stabilization is helping with the overall anxiety throughout the day, which, that same organism and those herbs are going to provide. But then, keeping in mind what's going on in the gut, and then eventually transitioning from here to the TGR, but still reaping all the benefits of sound sleep, where a lot of the body's functions are renewing, revitalizing, detoxing, and helping this person's overall mental, emotional capacity. And then this is, of course, a product we don't have yet, but I'm just getting ready with the kind of that plug and play idea when we introduce it, that when we come up with, specific disruptors, it needs to fit into an overall protocol. Again, starting slow with the gut, always keeping in mind the gut is going to have a connection with everything we do. And then, this is a very specific disruptor, but perhaps the MegaGuard will be the overall stabilizer, and maybe even once this ends, this will be the maintenance. We'll have to see, as we get the training on these, if this really is an appropriate position for the recommendation. And that's all as far as I've gotten. I think we can look at, once we get our Mega Mycobalance back, that would make sense. We would just plug that in here as the disruptor, and maybe have the fish oil or something as the stabilizer, but that would be our Candida ends.
Right.
And just kind of keeping that concept going, that we don't have to radically change protocols. We can keep the principles the same and be able to educate more directly and simplify it. What do you think?
No, I love all of that. Most definitely. And I know it's coming up, but PyloGuard, would that be able to be included at all?
Yeah, and that might be the US name. This might be the European name. So I think
The
that's,
PyloPass. Okay.
yeah, I think we're talking about the same thing there. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So in terms of, are these the slides that will be like, what would you want for Thursday?
What I can do, we can, if you want to focus on the SIBO, I'll give you access to both of these. And, again, this gets pretty deep. Maybe you want to put together an elementary and an advanced.
Okay.
And utilize both of these slides. There's two things going on here. It's one is a concept of how do we plug and play all of our products into easy to understand protocols. And
Okay.
so that's all I had intended to cover. Maybe, you want to just give yourself time to look over the SIBO aspects, and then we present that down the road.
Okay. Awesome.
And then, these slides go on. This is Catherine. I think I got this from Catherine. This is what people have been using for the SIBO, but it wasn't broken down into the ends protocol.
Okay.
It was just, kind of this slide. That was it. And
Right.
I didn't like the idea of protocol being printed. So this slide is here just to say, basically, don't use it until, I know whoever put this slide together, if we can just take off the word protocol.
Yeah.
And again, since I've been putting it into this format, maybe we don't use that other slide altogether. We just present it as, a 4-step, protocol here.
Right.
And then if you want to, all the rest of these slides are going into each individual, explanation of the products if they're not familiar with it. But, they're not really in order of the ends. So I would put the HU58. Well, she's probably doing IgG 2000 as a pre-treatment. And that's, part of our ends too. You can flip the E and the N easily depending on how fragile the person is. But yeah, those you're all familiar with. Yeah, that's just the explanation of each one. So I will put you on this. And
Amazing. Thank you so much. Much to do this week.
Yeah, and talking about that, what do you need help with as far as I think we already went over the new, where is it? This here, because so the link has changed for your monthly. It's now updated for 2022. And so when the end of the month comes around, it looks a little bit different just because I'm going to be tracking kind of the overall monthly total, and that'll show the team total as well.
Okay, awesome.
So there's that header, but the metrics are fewer.
Okay.
Well, they were supposed to be fewer. Maybe I didn't remove these yet. Because yeah, let me take these out. The whole point of keeping track of what's going on in Sales Loft is removed. So that was good news for everybody. So we have fewer metrics. Instead of being, I don't know, there were probably 20 or so. Now we have half as many. So that's good.
Right. Awesome.
And then this part is new, really just writing down. And I wrote down, this is your RD group, right? The nutrition professionals is, I don't know if that's their official name or not, but if you want to go ahead and list, we're really focused on the top 5 of ones you're excited about and you're growing, prospects, leads, new accounts. And then the next 5 are just backups to those.
Okay.
And then you already did this. And the whole point of this is, in the meat of your territory is making sure that, everyone has had some contact. And then just as a team, making sure that we've contacted more than haven't. And that's what's happening over here. And I don't know, I think out of 200 or so accounts, I'm trying to change this ratio here so that we reduce the ones that haven't been contacted.
Right.
And
And I will say, I didn't know, I thought we were just doing the top 40. So I stopped color coding this at some point, so I can go back and continue. But I didn't know exactly how far down on these we were supposed to go.
Oh, I think you, yeah, your column is all color coded, so I think you're good. I don't see
Okay,
any.
I thought that it went, see, it starts to get,
Oh, there's just this one white one here, so that I would just, yeah, most of them I think are color coded. There were just a few.
once it gets down to like the really small accounts, probably like 2,000 or less, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, I've contacted them. It took me a really long time to go into each account and see.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
quit after the 4,000. Where is it? Wherever that total is. I thought where is the end? Yeah, somebody's taken it all the way down to the bottom, but I quit at right there.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know how long, but
Yeah,
it was taking quite a lot of time and I forgot to return to it and to finish. So good to know.
yeah, and I think you've done the bulk of the work. I just have to have conversations with others that have quite a few white ones,
Right.
because that's pulling our score down. So that's where that's going. But I think other than that, just, I guess, catching up on your meetings and everything, so the month looks good, and
Yep.
I will give you that ends concept and have you present that for Thursday, and see if the group can give you any ideas, to get your mind going on your big Thursday that's coming up.
Great. I'm very excited.
Super. All right. Well, welcome back, and let me know if you need anything.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day, Tracy.
Thanks. You too. Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.